In this part 2, I thought I'd go through and show step-by-step how I create the vocoder guitar tone from scratch using the newest video that I used the tone with. And I'll link to part 1 of this tutorial up in the right corner of this video. Here's how the guitar sounds dry without the effect. And the first thing that we'll need is a chord progression that complements the part. Here's a really simple chord progression. And you don't have to make the chords any different than this. This will work fine. I like to make the chords a little bit wider, but once you have a MIDI track with the chords drawn in, we can set up the rest of the effect. So I like to send my guitar to this effect. So we'll need to make a bus. So this way we can have our dry guitar with our normal tone, and then we can have the separate bus with nectar on it, and that will have just the harmonies. If you know of any alternatives to this effect, any free alternatives ideally, that would be great if you can leave them in the comments. Nectar is the only thing that I know of, and Vocal Synth, that have these MIDI-controlled harmony engines. But anyways, inside of Nectar, the only thing that you need for this tone is the harmony module. And the voices aren't initially laid out. You'll have to draw them in first. So just hover over any point on the grid here and just click to enable another voice. And I like to alternate the sides that I add the voices on. So no matter how many voices that I'm using, it will even itself out on both sides. You can use up to 8 of these voices, and that's the reason why I use a send. So I can use more than 8 voices by just sending to multiple buses, each with its own instance of nectar on it, and also each getting its own set of MIDI notes. And make sure that the MIDI enable button is highlighted inside of nectar. And since we're sending the guitar tone to nectar, we only want the voices to come out of this bus, so we can enable the voices only. And then the grid with all the voices that are drawn in represent the amount of panning, either left to right, or how high it is on the grid is the volume. So you can adjust the levels of the harmonies in relation to each other based on how high they are or how spaced out they are on this grid here. And that's it for setting nectar up. The next thing that I'll do is send my guitar tone and the MIDI chords to nectar. So by this point, you should be able to hear the effect working. So with these 3-note chords, we would have either 1 harmony on the left side and 2 on the right, or 1 on the right, 2 on the left. But we can have up to 8 voices per instance of nectar, and we can use as many instances of nectar as our computer can handle. So we can make these chords a lot fuller and get a lot more harmonies to play. But you don't have to add any more notes and any different colors to the chord. Something that I like to do is just copy the entire root note progression and paste it into lower octaves. Typically I'll go either 1 or 2 octaves lower. And then the same thing with the whole rest of the chord. You can take the chord, copy it, and then transpose the entire chord up in octaves. And now this 3-note chord becomes an 8-note chord. And here's how the effect sounds with the larger chords.